All right, today we're going to work on kind of literally going down memory lane with me a little bit today and talk about the memories in FamilySearch. Let me open this up all the way. Are we seeing the whole screen?
It says,
Is it taking up the whole screen?
I think
Cut
so.
off half the screen and the other part's in consultant training.
Okay, but I mean the PowerPoints,
Yes,
Right,
it's showing.
pictures up there and so forth.
you're seeing the whole PowerPoint.
Yes.
It's got a
It's
split
showing
screen
that
then.
it's not filling the whole screen.
Okay, there is an edge. There's a border on the outside.
Yes.
Okay, so the reason we want to talk about this is because as consultants, memories are one of those things that we really, really want to learn how to use so that we can stress these with our patrons, because this is really the fun stuff of family history for a lot of our patrons. And so come with me down memory lane, as I say, and we'll talk about memories today. Way back in 2013, Don Anderson was the senior vice president for FamilySearch, and he gave a fireside that I went to. And he mentioned several reasons why we needed memories. And one of them was that facts don't fill us with emotion, and that family history can be about should be about finding out about our ancestors. And he stressed the cookie jar idea, that a full cookie jar makes home more inviting. You know, if you think about your mother's cookie jar or your grandmother's cookie jar, that was one of the things you wanted to get to when you got to their house. Well, the photos and stories and other memories are what we fill our family tree cookie jar with. Another one is that knowing about our ancestors helps us know more about ourselves. And lastly, we need this strong intergenerational self to help us face the challenges of life. And part of that intergenerational self is getting to really know our ancestors. And so he made a pretty good case for why we need to have memories. And so we can add the photos and stories of your ancestors records and family tree. With memories feature, we can add photos. We can set a portrait photo for our person. We can share memories either singly or in multiple groups online in things called albums. We can add stories, and we can see the memories that other people have added to our ancestors, not just the ones we do, but things that other people have brought in. We can add audio files. We can do all kinds of things. The one thing you need to realize, and you may have never noticed, is that there actually are some guidelines. Once in a great while, you'll run into them. I have one where I had my father-in-law, I put up a picture of him after he passed away with his father sitting on the side of a pool when my father-in-law was a little boy, and his dad was sitting there smoking a pipe. And the system bounced that memory because of the pipe, because there are certain guidelines. And so I wrote to him and I said, hey, you know, they weren't members of the church, and this is a precious memory in the family. It really ought to clear. And they went ahead and added it in and let it be part of his memory group. But things like that can't happen if you don't follow rules. Okay. One thing you need to realize is about privacy and permission. Currently, the photos and stories can be viewed by anyone. So you're strongly encouraged to add items only to deceased ancestors. We'll talk a little more about the living as we go on. If you add any photos or stories that include living people, you are really supposed to, by the rules and regulations of FamilySearch, get the permission from each living individual in that photo. The only exception is you do not have to get your own children's permission. But any other living people, you're supposed to get their permission if they're in a photo that you're posting. Appropriateness, the picture should have proper context. And we need some people to mute their microphones if you could. What others can do with photos that you add Others can view your photos. They can add tags, which means identify people that are in your photos. They can add photos to their albums. If photos attached by others can be detached but not deleted. I can delete my photos, but you can't. You can delete your photos, but I can't. The only thing I can do about your photos is detach a tag to a certain person on that photo. So if you don't want tags that were added by others, you can just delete them. And then lastly, what others can do to stories that you add. Others can read your stories. They can add stories to an album. They can add comments at the bottom of the story, separate from the story itself, but they can't edit or delete the story. But any user can detach links that are on that story. So if the story is linked to somebody that really shouldn't be linked to, anybody can delete that link, but they can't delete the story. Now, they have a lot of rules for photos, and I'm not going to read all of them. The 4 basic standards are they need to be appropriate, they need to be relevant to family history, heart-turning, and non-commercial. Okay, they have a machine, they have an electronic tool that screens every photo. And that's where my photo got in trouble because of the pipe in my my wife's grandfather's lips. That got the thing bounced initially. But things it does, it even counts how much of your skin is showing to determine nudity. Okay, they don't want any sacred or religious clothing being displayed. No cross-dressing. Body shots that don't have a head or face. Product endorsements on clothing. Profanity. Actions of illegal actions or products or services like drugs. No vulgarity. No expressions of hatred, no images of violence or mutilation. So that includes things like hunting photos where you've got the deer hanging there. Those will be evaluated individually. It also includes things like piercings and tattoos. No promotion of racism, no promotion of current products, causes, or charities, no commercial photos. You have to have the right to the photo, supposedly, to be able to post it. Or you need to have one where the copyright is expired. And then photos that are edited in a way to make them inaccurate, false, or misleading. Now, the last thing on that page is really important. Any group shot that contains even one individual who violates any of these guidelines will cause the photo to be bounced. Okay, so in this lesson, we'll talk about photos. We'll spend a lot of time on it about adding them, tagging them, setting a portrait photo, adding them to an album, because everything we do to photos is pretty much the same thing we do for a document, a story, and an audio file. And we'll talk about the differences, but they all include a lot of the same steps. So we'll focus heavy on photos and gloss over the other 3 areas somewhat. We'll talk about adding stories. We'll talk about including documents and audio files, and then creating albums, which is something that I think a lot of us have missed out on. Okay, now some people have asked, how in the heck do I get things into FamilySearch, into the Memories program? Well, the secret is you've got to digitize. And so in one way or another, you've got to make whatever it is you want put in there digital. If we're talking about images, you have, as far as I can see, 3 options. You can scan them. You can take a digital image of them with a camera that has the capability of making digital images, and then download that to your computer so that you have the image available. Or you can take an image using the Memories app and directly upload it into Memories. And with the scanning, if you have one of the scanners that works at your center that's tied to FamilySearch, you can literally do the same thing as the last one there and scan them and upload them directly. Ms. Smith.
Yes, I do have restrictions on pectals, nothing above 5,000. So I have to change it to below 5,000, but you can bring it up to 5,000 pectals per picture, which improves the picture.
Yeah, even as far as the low end.
Yeah, if you get a picture that's only 100 or 200, it's very hard to.
Oh, yeah, yeah. When you're scanning.
Right, so you can up
Yeah.
it. I have the process to up it up to near 4,000, not going to 5,000, 3,000 to 4,000 is usually where I keep the pictures at.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of scanning in the first place. I'd much rather use digital images because they don't pixelate. But yeah, you need to get as high a quality as you can get away with. And we'll talk about it. There are limits on how big the file itself can be.
I put on 3,800 pictures so far.
Okay. Now for stories, you get two options. You can type.
Rodney Smith.
Larry, you need to mute your microphone.
I thought you did.
No, I didn't. On the stories, you need to either type them into the box in memories, which I do not recommend because you give them a 10-minute time limit and then it times out and you lose what you put in. Or just create a Word document or whatever word processing program you're using. Just type it out on that and do a copy and paste and transfer it into stories. Understanding that if when you made the story, if you had images embedded or footnotes created that fit into the story, those are not going to transfer. It's only going to be the text. But that's my recommendation on stories. For the audio, you can convert tape or whatever other media you might have into either M4As or MP3 or WAV files, any one of those three formats. Or you can use the memory app and just record straight in, or actually from the web. If you're in memories, you can record if your computer has a speaker. You can just speak right there and record it and save it. Now, PDFs. PDFs files can only be used for documents. You can't use a PDF for a story or a photo. You can't associate other photos to a PDF. In other words, if you have photos in a PDF, you can't tag the photos that are in it. In fact, you can't even search in FamilySearch for the words and things that are in the PDF using find. There's a find feature in memories, but it doesn't work with PDF files. So they're a little bit limited, but they have a real good use. And we'll talk about how I would recommend you use PDF files. Besides the obvious of you've got an image of a document that's in PDF, well, you can upload that document as a PDF. But there's also another way we can use it to our advantage for something else, and we'll bring that up. Okay, so adding photos to tree.
Bob, I have a quick question.
Okay, quick.
On the stories. Can you segregate or segment your stories into 10-minute limits? Can you do that? Have more than one part of the story?
Stories into 10-minute limits?
Well, you said your
You're talking about audio files?
audio files, yes.
Yeah, you can
Okay.
break them into segments. In fact, when my sister passed away a couple of weeks ago, I went to the funeral. They recorded the eulogy or the whole service. I'll take that back. They recorded the whole service, turned it into audio file, broke it into 8 pieces, and put all 8 pieces up in her memories. So you can virtually listen to the entire service in parts. Part
Right.
1, part 2, part 3, part 4, and so on.
Okay, thank
because you're limited in size, how big the individual file can be.
you. Okay,
So they broke them into about 7-minute segments and they fit fine.
great, thank you.
Okay, now to get to photos, to adding a photo, the first thing to do I would recommend is go to the person page of the person that you're adding a photo for. There's a reason for that. And then click on memories that's down here between collaborate and ordinances. And you might say, well, why is he saying do this? Well, there's one main reason for that. When you do that and it takes you to memories, it's going to take you to the memory page where William's memories are, and the system will know you're there in William's memories. And at that point, if you add a photo, it's going to say, oh, William must be in this because you're at William's page. And it will start by tagging for you that photo with William and save you a step. Now, the other option is to work off the memories up at the top. And that takes you to your general memory gallery where all your memories are located. And when you go there, the system doesn't know that you've been over at William's page. And so if you add something up there to memories, it'll have nothing tagged to it at all. And you will have to start from scratch in doing the tagging. So there's an advantage, if you can think about it, to go in through where the red box is to memories for the person you're working on at the time. Okay, if I do that, I come over to William's page. I clicked on memories and I see the top part of his page where there's a lot of pictures and other things and photos. You can see he has 141 memories. If I want to upload yet another one, I click upload photos. And when I do that, it opens up my computer window looking at all of my files on my computer. And I'm going to have to direct the computer to where the memory is located. So in this case, I happen to have a file under photos. I'm in pictures. I have a photo file called Ancestral Family, and inside it, I have a Carter folder. And here's a photo that I might want to upload. So I click on it. When I put my mouse over it, a little box appears. I click on it, it gets a little blue border, and then I can click open. And when I do that, the system will say I'm uploading it. Now I switched over because I actually had that picture. I went over here to my sister that just passed away and I added a photo of her. She's the person on the end here on this photo. When you first upload it, it says processing. And the reason it says processing is it's running that program to see if you've broken any rules. It's looking to see that the people are dressed, that they don't see illegal activities, headless people, nudity, and all those other things. Okay, if you click on the eye, it'll tell you that. But you can proceed, you don't have to wait. You can proceed because there's a bunch of things you really want to do to every photo that you upload. And so all you need to do then is just click somewhere on the picture so that it will open it up. Okay, and so it opened it up, and the very first thing I try to do, if I remember, is to go above it where it says add a title. And I add a title. So I click on add a title and it gives me a line. And so I put a title in there and then I'll click save. Now there's also another place that I can put some good information. That's down here under people where it says add event description. And so I can go over there and I can click on add description after I click on people. And I went over here to another picture that had a description in it already. And you can fill in the information. Like in this case, this is my William Pillsbury Carter, and this is the original charcoal portrait that's been donated to the church history department. So I added that in as part of the description so people would know about this photo. So I like titles and description. Now, description's not as essential. Title really is. You really need to put a title in there. The description isn't as vital. Now, when you go look at people, if you see people 0, that means there's absolutely nobody tagged to this photo. That means only you are ever going to see this picture or document, whatever it is, because you haven't attached it to any people and tree. And this is what will happen if you went to that memories up at the top of the page and went straight to your gallery with the memory when you loaded it. And so these are ones that you definitely at least want to tag it to somebody so that it gets out there in the public where people can see it. Okay, so how do we tag somebody? After you go to that picture, like this one with my sister, nobody had been tagged yet, said 0. Just click somewhere on the picture and this rectangular box shows up. We're going to manipulate the box, both its size and its location, to center it around my sister's face like this. Once I've got it located where I want it to be, I start typing her name. Now the system knows that I'm on Krista Lenore Given. So when I started typing Krista, it immediately thought, this dude's probably talking about Krista Givens. And so it popped her name up. Her grandmother was also named Krista, and she's in the immediate family, so it popped her name up. It was able to do that because these people already had memories. If you're attaching the first memory to somebody, you will not get any helps because the system only works after they have some memories already attached. So what happens if I start typing a name and nothing comes up? Either maybe I've spelled the name wrong, or it's different than the way it is in tree, or the person doesn't have anything. I'm going to need to click add new, which means it will say, okay, that memory goes to somebody named Krista Lenore Givens, but we don't know where she is in tree. And then you're going to have to go through the process of finding her ID. We'll show you that in a little bit later in another one. But that's the option. You either can click on the person's name that's there after you start typing it in, and then just click on the name that comes up that you want, or you'll have to click add new, which means you then have to go through another step of identifying that person for the system so they know where to really put the memory. Okay, now that you've tagged people, this is another picture of my grandmother with her second husband. You can do some other things by when you click over on people. There's an actual menu up there. After you click on people, and then I clicked on George here and opened up his little page. I can click on his name and I can actually go to George's record. I can click on show all memories for this name, and it will show me all of George's memories. I can also go and edit the tag. If I would change my view on the screen and put George's circle up there, if it wasn't where it should be, I could edit it and change the size and location, get it centered in better. Or if I realized that it was attached to the wrong person, I could just delete the tag. That doesn't affect the photo. It affects the tag for the linkage to this individual on that photo if it's not the right person. So those things can be changed. I don't think I ever mentioned it, but you'll notice some other details. You can add an event date. You can add an event place as best as you know. And of course, you have the description. Then the system is going to tell you who contributed it and when, the name of the file that the person had. You could add a story to this photo, or you could put this photo in an album. And we'll be talking about albums later. Those things all appear once you open up the People tab on that photo. Now, above each photo, there's a little thing called Actions. And Actions allow you to do a bunch of things. If you are the submitter, you will be able to click on Actions and then rotate. Either rotate the photo to the right or to the left until you get it right side up. We've seen a lot of photos that are in sideways. Unfortunately, only the submitter gets this dialog for rotate left and right. You don't unless you're the submitter. You can download any memories that are in Memories. So if you want them on your computer, you may download them. That's one of the understood things when people put a memory in. There's no way to privatize them if you're going to let people see them. You can add them to an album, add this photo to an album. If it's a document that isn't a PDF, you can change it to a photo, and you can change, in this case, I can change the photo to a document. A lot of people are confused about that because you take a picture of a wedding license. Yes, it's a photo, but it's really a photo of a document and should be in Documents, not in Photos. So there's a way to flip-flop documents and photos for this submitter. I can also move it to my archive, which is a part of my gallery, which is something I personally don't use. But that's a place, if you use it and want to have it there, this is how you get it over there easily. And you can also delete it if you discover you maybe posted it in twice and you want to get rid of one copy of it. So there's a lot of things under Actions that a lot of people never notice because it's just that word Actions up there under the title. Okay, changing the portrait photo. It used to be that everybody could have their own version of a portrait on an ancestor. I could have this one for William, and my cousin could have a totally different one, and another cousin could have another one. Well, they found that it really wasn't used very often that way. So to simplify the web page and make it run faster, they took that away. And now everybody that ever goes to William's page is going to see the same portrait. So if I change it, I'm changing it for everybody. So let's say I want to change it. What do? I just click on the photo because it doesn't tell you anything about that. You just have to click on it and a little drop down occurs. I can edit it. Maybe it's not centered right. That would take me to the photo and I could change the size of the circle and the location of the circle on the page so that it centers his face. Or what usually we want to do is just replace the portrait with a different portrait. Or you can just remove this portrait, then all you get is the little male silhouette. And I don't know why we'd want that if we have a photo. So if I want to replace it, I'm going to click Replace. And what it does then is it pulls up all of his photos. Now, you'll notice some of his photos are not really photos that we would want for this. The first one's okay. The second one's his tombstone. The third one's a picture of a page out of FamilySearch. So they're not all appropriate. It may be that you're going to need to upload, back up. You may need to upload a photo or select from your gallery something that's already been uploaded but not tagged to him. But in this case, I'll just click on that photo that's on the left. The photo shows up, and this is the basic tool that we have when we tag people nowadays. You use the slider to change the size of the picture. The circle doesn't change. In the old days, the circle changed, the picture stayed the same. Now, when we use the slider, the photo changes size. So you want to change its size till the face is the right size to fit inside this circle. And then you can grab the photo and drag it around until you get the face centered in the circle. And then at that point, you click Save this portrait, and it'll say, it'll be a few minutes, but it'll be there and it'll show up. Now, tagging a group, this is something that seems daunting to a lot of people. I've got a photo here of a family. My great-great-grandfather, who's the photo in the middle of the photo. He died in 1893. The picture was taken about 1901 with his wife and all the children. And so to get Dad in the photo, they put Dad's portrait in the photo. And we've tagged Dad, but at this point we hadn't tagged anybody else. And so we want to tag the people on there. So we click on people, and then we can click in the photo. So I clicked on my grandmother, Krista. And so I sized it and I moved it around. And in fact, this is an old version of the program. Nowadays, you would have a square to do this with. But I had this picture, and it's such a good example of this that I can't do it again without removing it from FamilySearch. I didn't want to do that. So anyway, we center it on her. We start typing it in. We see her name. And so we click on her name. And that puts her on the tag list. Now she's been tagged. Notice that the picture that goes with her name is different than this, because that picture that's with her name on the right is at that time what was her portrait photo. So the pictures aren't going to necessarily match. It does for her dad because that's the only picture we have of him. So now we've tagged two people. What about tagging somebody who's never been tagged before? And we'll show you what happens. So here's my Aunt Stella, Gastella Armenta. So I set hers up and I started typing her name and nothing happened. So I have to click Add New Person. And when I do that, the system says, whoa, you got a problem. This is an old picture. It has the white exclamation point in a red circle. Today it would be a green or be a blue bar that says attached to family tree. So it's going to say, okay, you say this is a Gastella Armenta Wilkins. Would you please go find her for us? So the best way to do this, by the way, is with their ID number. So have that copied down so that when you click on that and it says go find her, you can just say, I want to find her by ID number. Put the ID number in and say search. It'll come up with her and you can say, yep, that's her. Select her. And it will then attach the link to her memories so that now Gastella shows up linked to an actual person in tree with her name. Okay, and as you go through all the people, eventually you can have a mess like this. I've actually seen memories that have 100 people in them, and many of the people in them are linked. What you'll have to do is shrink down the little box that we use now rather than the circles to as small as you can get it to face around the face so they don't overlap too much, because the system doesn't work real good when there's a large overlap on these tags. It gets very confused on its own. But it is a feature that allows you to tag a bunch of people in a photo. Okay, adding a story. Like I've said before, you can add stories to people. You can attach photos to the story at the beginning of the process when you first create the story or after it's completed. You can attach up to 10 photos to a story. They won't be in the story, but they will be attached to the link for the story. You can edit or delete the stories that you've added. You can add comments to stories that others have written. You can add comments to your own story as far as that goes. And you can attach the story to everybody in the story. And you can detach a story if it's linked to the wrong person or if it's a duplicate story. Say that somebody's attached the same story twice to somebody. You can detach one of those so it's only there once. And you may find it easier, and I recommend it, to write the story in your word processor before adding it to FamilySearch. Then just do copy and paste. So how do we do an adding of a story? You go to memories, you go down on the memories page to where stories are found, and you click on create story. Okay, and what comes up is this dialog. The top part is where you're going to be able to add photos. You can either upload photos or pick them from a gallery, and you can add up to 10 of them. Okay, that's one thing you can do. You can choose a title. So in this line here, you're going to want to type the title of your story. And then the box for the story itself isn't really a box, it's just a line there. Kind of funky. And you just start typing on there if you're doing typing. And you've got 10 minutes and then it shuts down. So make it a short story or have ready something that you're ready to paste in there. It can be as long as you want. I have pasted stories that were over 50 pages and had no trouble whatsoever with them. But all that box is one line. It's kind of funky looking. Okay, and then make sure you click save when you're done. So here's a story that's been finished. Okay, it's a story about my grandmother, Krista. And it's now done. I attached a photo to it. And I have tagged a bunch of people to it. Okay, and where it says who is in this memory, I could continue and put other people in there. I tend to put in just the major people. So this is my grandmother. I put my grandmother, then my grandfather, Joseph Craig Givens, her only child, Joseph James Givens, my father, and her second husband, George Stamford. There's other people mentioned in the story, but those are the four main ones. I could continue it by just going up where it says who's in this memory, and I could add more people. And the easiest way to do it is just by providing the IDs for the people that you're adding. Okay, now we have two options for the pictures in stories. One of them is the basic way FamilySearch has set it up. So this is another story. This one's for my grandfather. And so you can see that when you first see it in memories, you can tell that there's a bunch of pictures. There's 2 pictures showing and then a 6+ more. And then it says this is a story, this is the life of Joseph Craig Givens. Okay, now I can change the pictures part of that by edit story. If I go to that, I'll get this little dialogue across the top of the screen where there's a ribbon for pictures and a little green plus sign. This is where I can add or I can delete pictures. I can highlight a picture and click remove, it'll take it out. Or I can click the green plus sign and add a photo. I recommend you have these already in your gallery and you just go to them when you say plus, go to the gallery, pull up the picture, add it in. Now there is one tricky thing to this. That's the order. If you're like me and you want them in a certain order, you've got to put them in the order you want them. You can't sort them. They won't sort. So put them in the order you want, or if you get them out of order, remove some, put them back in until you get them in the order you want. Remember, the max number is 10. I had 8, so I still have room for a couple more if I wanted to put them there. But this is nice, but they're not in the story itself. So what do you do if you've got a story where the pictures are in the story? This is the same story. This is the original version of the story. It has footnotes. It has embedded pictures. And if I do a copy and paste, I don't get the footnotes and I don't get the pictures. How can I get it as a memory? I get it as a memory when I have it in my word processor and I go to print and I say print to PDF and turn it into a PDF file. Now I'm stuck. I can't make it a story anymore, but I can upload it into documents. And so I changed the title and call it The Life of Joseph Craig Givens with Pictures. And so if you want to see the PDF version with the footnotes and the pictures, you go to the documents and you find this PDF file. Or if you just want to see the words of the story, you can go down to where it is in stories. It's not a perfect system, but it's a nice workaround, especially if you've gone to the effort of the footnotes and the pictures. Okay, albums. This is something most of us have never done. Think of that album that your grandmother made of pictures, maybe from a vacation or something like that, and she put it up in the bookcase, and nobody ever looked at it, but they were there in an album. Well, you can create albums. They have advantages in that you can group certain pictures because these photos can't be sorted in your gallery. There's no way to sort them at this point, except you can put them into an album. You can kind of sort them that way by grouping them in an album, an electronic album. And then there's some creative things you can do with the album. And we'll show you that. Okay, to do this, basically, you're going to be in Memories, and you're going to go to the gallery. And then in the gallery on the left-hand side, you're going to see a thing that says New Album. You're going to click on that. You're going to name the album, and then you will add memories to the album. Now we're going to show you that process. I just briefly mentioned it there. So I've gone to Memories. I'm in my gallery, and over on the left-hand side, it says Albums, and I see New Album. So I click on New Album, and down below here, I fill in a name. It's supposed to say William F. and Sarah Carter family, and then click Save. Now that I've got this album, I'm going to go over in my gallery to the pictures, and I'm going to start clicking on them, and I can click on as many as I want. And as I click on them, the little circle turns blue. You see the check mark. The title down below turns blue so that I can see what I picked. And I can go through in the gallery there and click on as many pictures as I want, or documents or stories. And when I'm all done, then I go up to Actions and I say Add to Album. And then it's going to say, okay, what album you want to add them to. And so you mark the album and you say Add to Album, and those images, stories, audio files, whatever they are all added to that album. Now, those are out of my gallery. What if there's something somebody else has added? Well, I went over in William Folsbury Carter, and he was in a mission to India in 1852, and there's a picture of the boat that he sailed in, and another patron put the picture in, and I want that in the album. Well, I have to go to that picture where it says that this David DeGraw put it in. I have to go to that picture and open it up, and then click Add to Album, and then again tell it, put it in the William and Sarah York Carter album, and it will be put there. Okay, William F. and Sarah Carter album. and then add to the album, and it'll go there. I have to do that for the ones that other people put in. Occasionally, if you put a lot of memories in, you will get a notification that somebody has put your picture in somebody else's album. Okay, or if I don't have an album, I can start one by clicking New Album. Okay, now what's cool about the albums is you can share them. If you click on Share, you'll be able to share. You can send a link, or you can put it on Facebook. There's several things you can do with social media with it if you click on Share. Now, detaching memories, if say like in this case, this memory, there were like 3 of them on William Folsbury. And so I figured out which one looked the least good, even though they're the same picture, sometimes the qualities are different. And I picked one that didn't have real good quality compared to the others. And I went to it, and I'm just going to detach William from it. So I go over to People, I open up William Folsbury, and then I go and click on Detach from Tree. And what that does is it severs the link for this particular picture to that person. And since he already had at least one other one, or maybe even 2 others, that was okay, because there was no need to have multiples of the same picture. Okay, and you have to give a reason. So I gave the reason of this is a duplicate image, and then I could officially detach it. Okay, documents work the same as pictures. They have to be PDF, JPEG, TIFF, BMP, or PNG. They're limited to 15 megabytes in size. So you've always got to play with that rule. You got to be careful. You can't get it such high resolution that it exceeds 15 megabytes, but that's pretty hard to do, but it can happen. So watch out for that. But the work you do with the documents are pretty much identical to what you do with photos once you get it uploaded. The steps you go through are the same. Audio files, they have to either be MP3s or M4As or WAV. I think I left that off, or WAV files. They also can only be 15 megabytes. And that's somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes worth of time.
Brother Gibbons,
Yes.
Vonna Kelly told me some time ago that there's a free app that you can Google that she said is very helpful. It guides you to do the audio thing. Have you ever heard of that one?
No, I really haven't. I'll be honest with you. When I want audio, I go to my grandkids. And so I really don't know. We'd have to get Vonna to provide us with that. I know if you have a Apple machine, you've got a lot better setup than we do that have Windows. Because Apple's set up, that's one of the big things it does is deal with audio and video files.
Yeah, she
And they have
told
a
me,
very good editing programs there.
she told me the title of it. It's just one word, but I can't remember it. Sorry.
Yeah, I do not know.
Okay.
Okay, and then once you do have the file, you can process it and do the things with it you do with the others. You can also add audio files to photos, or add written files to photos too, as far as that goes. So that's nice. Now, some other things, the last couple of things here at the end. The page itself can look kind of daunting, so it's kind of nice to see all the parts and see how they work. And so I want to do a quick little run through of the top half of this page, especially. So up at the very top, it has gallery, people, and find. Okay, the gallery is where all your photos first go. Okay. People will open up a show box where you can filter things by all people that you've uploaded, or you can have the system kind of filter it to close relatives. Those would be defined as deceased relatives who've been tagged in memories and they're probably within 4 generations or so of you. So that can filter down some of your memories. Or you can say, I just want the memories that were added by me. So show all people that you tagged in a memory. Or not attached to family tree, all the photos you've uploaded that you never have gotten around to tagging. So there's a bunch of ways to filter things. Then the third thing on there is find, where you can actually search. You can search for things like in the title or the description or in the body of stories. And if I put in William Fillsbury Carter, it'll pull up anything that mentions William Fillsbury Carter, whether it's a photo, a story, a document, or whatever, whether it's part of the title or part of the description or part of the written story, if it's a story. So those are 3 ways to kind of manage what you've got there, going from just simply the gallery, which has everything you've ever dumped in there. The group of icons directly below that allow you to filter out of the gallery by memory type, so that you can either see all your memories in the gallery, or all the photos, all the stories, all the documents, or all the audio files. So you have some different ways to kind of filter what's going on. Now that's the left side of the page. In the center, you see a green plus. This is the button that you want to click that will start the process for downloading memories to your gallery in general. You'll be able to classify the memory as a photo, document, story, or audio file. And you'll also be able to tag it to people at that time, or you can wait till later. As you go across the page, there's also a filter called Arrange. Arrange allows you to, in the drop-down, do several things. You can say newest added, which is the default, which puts everything you've ever put in memories in a list from the most recent to the oldest at the bottom. You could change it and sort it by title, but there's a catch now. If you don't have a title, it drops it out of the list. Or you could sort it by no title. You can show all the ones that don't have a title, but that drops everything out that has a title. And you can also sort it by not tagged. You could pull up all the memories that you haven't tagged to somebody, but that's going to throw out all the ones that are tagged. So beware when you use this, except for newest added, the list you get is only a portion of your memories. Now, going over to the right, far right, the 6 little boxes allow you to see thumbnails. That's the default view. That's what you've seen before, where you've got all these pictures in rows across your page. But there is a second way to do it, which is where you see the 3 lines, which changes the view to a list. The list is nice because it'll show you on the left the image, then it's going to give you the title, the date, and the place. And you can see which ones don't have title, date, and place, which is very nice if you're trying to get your memories totally marked up with everything you can about them so that they're fully identifiable. And then there's a magnifying glass on the edge, which allows you to search by words for whatever you're looking for. And you can pair these up, like you could filter by arrange and pick one of those there, and then choose just photos. You could say without titles and pick photos, and it will show you the photos that don't have titles. So there's ways you can use multiples of these to filter your pictures. Now on that list on the left-hand side, my memories just tells you how many memories you have total. There's an archive there where you can move photos. Some people, once they've marked everything about the photo, the title, the date, the place, and everything, they put it in archive just to get it out of the way. And then there's also another box you can stick things in, which is called favorites. It doesn't affect like having them in all memories, but it allows you to sort out a few if they're really special to you for some reason. I never have figured out how to use that for any value to me. And then of course, there's the album section where it shows you all your albums. The numbers tell you how many memories are in each album. And then of course, below it, it gives you a chance to share those. Okay, now identifying pictures. This is why I like the idea of doing like not tagged and sorting by the list, because now I can see all of my memories that have some lackings. I've got some here that don't have titles. I've got several here that don't have a date. I might have to just guess the date, and also place. You know, you might not even be able to fill these out on some people or some images, but there's always that opportunity to do it. And this will help you see where you definitely haven't done that yet. And then out here is tag, so that you can add a tag to these. And I guess none of these have been tagged yet at the time when I created that. But I'd use not tag. Yeah, that's why they're there. They're not tagged. And it's showing me the other things I haven't done in addition. Okay. So now private versus public. Memories can be private or they can be public. This is new. This just started a little while ago. Clicking on the little drop down next to public up here allows you to choose between public and private. Now you've got to understand something. If you mark something private, it's in your gallery. When you die, anything that's marked private, unless they somehow rewrite the program, will be forever unviewable by anybody. Not your family, not your spouse, not the world. So you really need to think this through. If it's a temporary thing, you want to make it private for a short while for some reason, that's okay. But if you're just going to leave it private, you might as well not put it in family tree. Because if they're not going to change things to where a deceased user, their memories can be made public, it's of really no value other than a place for you to store stuff for your own benefit. So really think that part through. Now, when it comes to you and me, living people, the thing you don't want to do is you don't want to tag yourself when there's other people in the picture. If it's just you or you're the only person tagged, I don't see where there's any problem there. Because as long as it's only a living person who's tagged, that picture can't be trolled by Google because it can only troll the public shown pictures, and yours is in private spaces, so it's not going to do anything. As long as your photo, the photo of you or other living people, isn't included in the albums that can be shared publicly, I don't think you'll have any trouble. So it's kind of up to you what you want to do. I've got a lot of photos of me in there. Most of them are just me. And I've never tagged other people than me on them, so that they kind of stay inside my private spaces. I don't put them in albums. I don't share them with people any other way. And they'll stay fairly private. But do understand this public versus private thing, because that is important. Okay, questions? And a long presentation. Unfortunately, there's a lot of moving pieces there.
I had a question.